Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Search Podcast, joined by a guest called Kyle. But Kyle, I'll let you take an intro on yourself here.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me, Elliott. So, yeah, my name's Kyle Winterbottom, founder of Orbition Group. So we launched the business middle of last year, slap bang in the middle of the pandemic, which was an interesting time. Wife wasn't too sure the timing was quite right, as you'd expect, but there you go. So, yeah.
So tell me, first question. Where'd the name come from? I love asking everyone where they get their business names from.
Yeah, this is I get asked this all the time. So when we were setting the business up and I was looking at names, I wanted some, I had a few kind of key bits of criteria in my mind. I wanted it to be one word that was quite punchy, stand out. Yeah. And I was trying to tie it back into the whole theme of what we wanted the branding to be, which was very kind of, futuristic, spacey type of thing. So Orbition is a made up word. It was, a play on words of, the word orbit, that we were trying to figure out something that sounded pretty unique. And ironically, one of the criteria was that I wanted it to be one word that people would remember and knew how to pronounce. And ironically, everyone that says the name Orbition says Orbiton. So
I thought it was
It's the shun in the end. I guess the I is not very recognizable next to the T, which in hindsight, we may need to rebrand it a couple of years.
I think just at natural first glance, that's what you end up saying. Do you have a slogan as well, like underneath the brand name?
Yes. So it's data analytics and AI talent. So that's all we do. We operate in the data analytics and artificial intelligence space. Yeah.
Okay, fine. And I'm assuming that's your background. That's what you've done in your recruitment career.
Yeah. So started out kind of 10 years ago at S3, working for Computer Futures in their tech brand in the data and BI space. So that's predominantly what I've done for for a long time.
Brilliant. Fine. So tell me, I guess I'm sure you've been asked this many times, how did it feel? And I suppose, what was on your mind in terms of starting this through COVID and doing it through that period of time?
So I think it's something that I always knew that I was going to do. It was just a matter of when and timing. And I think, COVID ironically presented the right opportunity. I've been fortunate throughout my career that I've done a lot of startup type things. So whether it's starting new desks or new functions or new divisions or whatever the case may be. So I've got quite a lot of experience in that space of starting something from scratch, which gave me the confidence. Yeah, I guess. The flip side of that is when you keep doing that for somebody else, eventually knowing that you can do it, you kind of think, well, why am I doing this again? And I think COVID presented an opportunity for me where, I was the director at Lawrence Harvey. We kind of pivoted into the Nordics market. We're already doing a bit there, but we started to build it out further and have a real focus on that. And it was that kind of point really that I was thinking, should I be doing, you're back to square one, adding managers to the system, finding candidates that you don't have. And I was thinking, I probably should just be doing this for myself. And was lucky that experience throughout COVID and, most of the data and analytics type projects carried on. They were one of the only real kind of business units that kept getting reapproval for hire. So I just thought, what's the worst that can happen, right? So
no, look, everyone I did it, take a leap of faith and trying to go at it. Obviously no one knows kind of what to expect and what's going to happen and how you're going to get from A to B. But I guess for you, you're in the same boat as many recruiters out there that have been tasked with a challenge of setting up a new division, a new desk, a new area within their businesses. And at that point, they kind of do question it. If I'm going to start this from scratch, I might as well go and do, something else. And I don't know if anyone's got the courage to be in that position. And some people don't also, they may have the courage, but then it's also that business acumen. Would you say that you kind of was confident in having that acumen, in business to move forward with it?
I'd love to say, yeah. I've got an MBA, right? So I was fortunate to go out to the US and play football or soccer, as they call it out there, on a scholarship in exchange for an MBA for a couple of years, right before I got into recruitment. So I think, that coupled with just the tenure in the industry, I always knew it was something that I was going to do. And, I guess I felt confident on some of that, the commercialities behind getting a business off the ground, probably.
Yeah. Has there been a point during this process of setting it up where you just thought, what the hell have I done? Like, why have I even done this?
Yeah, numerous times. Yeah, I mean, you think about. I mean, look, it's very liberating, right? And it's very exciting. And when you knock the big deals in, and we do a load of retained leadership type stuff, and then kind of project type work in terms of building teams from scratch. So when you win those big projects that's sizable, it makes it worthwhile. But sometimes you're thinking, I could, just go back working for somebody else on a very cushy salary, getting overrides from a team, and have a much easier or, much less stressful life, probably. Yeah. But, it's the pros and cons, right?
No, look, that's it. And for those that don't necessarily have an idea on how the differences work from being able to be in that senior level position against doing your own thing, what would you class as the main reason to not to, like, the big differences here, for someone that's kind of in that middle ground mindset right now, thinking, what do I do? Why should I do that against being comfortable?
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of this comes down to personal drivers and motivations, right? So for me, as I said a couple of times now, I always knew that I was going to do it. It was just a case of when. I think the biggest difference for me was that, you can approach this and drive the business forward however you see fit, so I think a big part of my go to market, if you will, is all around that kind of marketing and personal branding piece. And I was very lucky actually that at Lawrence Harvey previously, I kind of, that's where I learned a lot of that type of stuff. And they gave me a lot of flexibility and freedom to kind of try things that were, maybe a little bit unconventional outside of your traditional recruitment company, but ultimately still you're operating within a set of parameters because it's someone else's brand. There's only so much you can do and say, and, there's only so many methodologies that you can work to because, it needs to be repeatable at scale across a business of 250 people, right? But when it's yours, you can say, right, this is what we're going to stand for. This is how we want it to look and feel. This is how we're going to engage with clients. This is how we're going to engage with candidates. And you can create that narrative yourself. And I think that's probably been the biggest difference for me. Even if you're working in a business that gives you a load of autonomy and flexibility, there's still only so much you can do. So that'd be probably the biggest difference, I'd say.
Was there anything that you were really concerned about before you set the business up at the point of when you was at, your previous role, where you're sitting there thinking, like, if I set up my business, I'm really concerned about doing this and I'm really concerned about doing that. Forget the money side of it. Forget taking that kind of leap into this kind of role. But, it might be across the management, the hiring. It might be across the financials, the cash flow. Is there anything that stood out?
So I think the thing that I was probably the most scared of is I didn't want to be just an independent recruiter sat in my back bedroom, billing. And I guess I was fearful that it was going to only ever be a lifestyle business because that's never what I had in mind. And, we're growing. We've made a few senior hires and we're growing quite rapidly now. But I guess the concern monetary wise is, you've got to do pretty well fairly quickly to get to that point where you can start to scale. And, my fear was that the longer that you don't, the more likely, it is to kind of be more of a lifestyle business. And the longer that goes on, the harder it is to kind of explode then into growth mode. So that was probably my biggest fear.
Okay. You talk about we. Is it just, do you own the business yourself? Is there a business partner?
Just me. Yeah.
So is there anyone else working with you?
Yeah. So there's three of us now. So
brilliant.
We've got two people that we brought in, very experienced senior guys, so we've got 30 odd years experience between the three of us and we're growing. So yeah.
I've got two questions for you based on this then.
Yeah.
One is, how do you feel about managing a team whilst running a business and also billing at the same time? Because there's three parts to that, which are very bloody difficult. Mm-hmm. And then there's the other aspect of it is, how did you attract talent to come and work for you? You've got a new startup, you've got a lot of experience, granted, a good probably book of business as well. But why did they choose you? What was your sell? So there's two parts to that question. So whichever one you want to take.
Yes, I think that the first one, and as I said, I was fortunate enough in my career, so I've lived and worked abroad. So I spent a couple of years in Dubai. I spent some time in New York. And during those experiences, especially in Dubai, I joined that was effectively a big global business, but to start their Dubai office. So that was literally as close to doing it for yourself as you could get, you know. So I was out getting office space, buying laptops, you know, it was a complete build from scratch into new market, new territory, everything like that. So I think I was kind of doing that then, or I had done that, you know, so I was still on the tools myself. We grew from me to 12, 13 people within the space of about 6 months. And, you know, I was managing the P&L for that office and business unit. So I'd already done that. So I think I was comfortable in that environment and kind of probably had more of an appreciation for actually what that takes than someone who hasn't been fortunate enough to kind of had that experience, I guess. So I think that's the first thing. The second thing around talent, you know, so I think I've got quite a clear vision in my mind of what I want the business to be and stand for. So as I mentioned, you know, I'm very big on the whole marketing, content, personal branding piece. You know, we host our own podcast and stuff like that. And I think I've, you know, been very clear in trying to stand out from the crowd, even the way we operate and the type of solutions, I guess, if you want to call it that we offer to the clients that we work with, you know, trying to be deliberately different, I think. And then obviously for the right type of people, especially more senior people that are probably, you know, sick of the old tried and tested ways and are maybe more open to trying things that are maybe slightly more innovative, if you want to call it that. And I think that's probably been the biggest sell, really, you know, because there's, as you know yourself, right, in what you do, there's 1,000,001 recruitment companies out there all professing to be different, but all doing the same thing, really.
I think a lot of businesses, though, do struggle on the startup basis to attract talent. They don't know how to do it, what to do. And the thing is that they start getting a fear in their mind of why would they want to work for us when they could go and work for a Lawrence Harvey or, you know, another big firm. And that's the kind of challenges. But if they don't have a belief in their own business and a clear vision, like you've just said, then they're not going to get from A to B. But then it's also kind of providing them with the, I suppose, the physical, practical side of it. You've got the podcast and the content, the marketing, and actually showing exactly what you're saying is exactly what it is and what it's going to be. And that's really, really key. You know, that's why I love doing these, you know, because they get to know who we are, what we're about. I think it's a bit of fun as well. I get to network as well. But, you know, there's so many things that you need to be able to put into it. And that is why it's, you know, bloody hard running your own business. So you mentioned before that you've got, you know, and then you've done an MBA. But for those out there that don't know how to run a business, that have struggled with P&L, that haven't had that opportunity, but are good recruiters and know how to bill, is there any courses in management leadership that you've taken or anything that you would advise other people to look into before they do this or to help them if they're already doing it?
I mean, I'm sure there's 1,000,001 courses out there, right, on management. I mean, I've been fortunate that I managed to do the MBA and therefore I've probably not had to look at a lot of that stuff. I mean, I think a couple of things that I'd probably mention is there's a number of networking groups out there, right, for recruitment leaders. I think what I see is there's a load of people that, you know, set up a business and then there's things that they don't know, but they don't know who to go and ask either, you know, and I think, do you necessarily need to be doing leadership or management courses? Look, I'm sure it would help, but there's also, you know, a load of networking groups out there for business owners and leaders, recruitment leaders and things like that, where you can lean on people who have that experience that can probably help you to get to the conclusion you're trying to get to.
Are you in one?
Yep.
Which one are you in?
The RDLC.
Oh, you're in there. I'm TRN. So we're on the other side. But I love it. I think it's really helpful. I've got good guidance. I've got always good mentors in the businesses that work and involved in it that help me. And if there's ever a question, I just ask, there's a group, I'm sure it's the same with your WhatsApp. You just say like, guys, what do you reckon on, you know, this or that? And it helps a hell of a lot. So, you know, really, really I'd say recommend that definitely. But so look, there's lots of little bits and bobs that I've picked out and chosen to ask and gone through with you in particular. What's the long-term plan? Surely you've got a vision, right? And a goal. I know that you're like at the minute you've been going short time and you've grown to, you know, and hired for people, etc. But what's the long-term, you know, aim?
So I think, you know, we're only ever going to operate in that data analytics and AI space. I'm a massive believer on being niche, being famous for doing one thing and doing it really well. I think, the strap line for the vision is to become the most recognized name in that space globally. I think there's probably only one other recruitment company that I can think of that have done that at scale on a global basis, and that's probably Harnham, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So, plan is we're going to put international offices on the map. So, we're already doing about 40% of our work in the States from here, so we'll put an office over there at some point within the next 18 months, I imagine. Sure. Maybe put an office in mainland Europe, and kind of grow from there. There's no kind of magic number in terms of head count, because I think you might get sucked into the whole vanity piece if you do that. But, I'm sure it'll be an evolution. But yeah, I think, long-term strapline vision is become the most recognized name in that space, and, globalize the business.
I've seen lots of firms do that over the years of doing rec to rec, and, and it always kind of, it works. Harnham have really got it to a T. But what's to stop you, and kind of being a bit of a devil's advocate here, and I'm going to bring an example into it because they're an amazing company like Signify, Scala specialists, Scala. However, they may get to a point where they've hit a wall, and they start having to expand because of client demands into other areas of tech, and then they don't become that big. I mean, as much as they are a specialist, do you think that you might see that could happen? Would you be against it?
Yeah, it's more than likely to happen, right? Especially, we've already very early on in the journey got into some very, very large, FTSE 100 type clients, and naturally they come back to you and say, can you do this? Now, I guess the beauty at the start is that you've only got so much resource, right? So it's actually quite easy to say no. When you're 50, 60 heads, it's probably more appealing to say, actually, yes, we could do that. So I think that's something that we've definitely thought about. I think as and when that happens, there's probably an opportunity for us to form a, group company, if you will, like the Fadens, the S3s of this world, and spin out different brands that specialize in different areas. That's probably, if I was going to go down that route, that's the route I'd take, rather than diluting the reputation of the Orbition brand by starting to do more things.
No, I agree with you. And I think that's a really, really good way to do it. And I think, if businesses that are setting up and starting out, it's inevitable that things can, spiral into other areas, etc. So as long as you manage it and break it down into the right pieces, then you can do what you want to do. My last question to you: how do you feel now? You're an entrepreneur, you run your own business, you're doing it, and you're getting there and you're on the way. How does it make you feel as a person? Like, how does it mentally affect you? How does it kind of help you when you wake up on a Monday morning?
So I think there's a couple of facets to this. Obviously, first side is that, it's at times absolutely liberating, right? You wake up and you're a business owner. I guess you can theoretically do what you want, as you want, when you want, from a lifestyle perspective. It can certainly make things easier. The flip side of that is that, there's an awful lot of stress and pressure that can come with that. I had this, it's interesting because I had this conversation with my wife not long ago when I was asked a similar question, and I was actually, my life now is not that much wholly different to what it has been in the past, because I've been tasked with doing the same things, So when I was at Lawrence Harvey, I set up their Manchester office for them from scratch. So it feels very similar, right? And I think, naturally you own the business, great. It makes you an entrepreneur, great, But I think for me, it's about just getting us to trying to take things in bite-sized chunks and get there. And I think once we get, when we've got a bit more scale behind us and we're doing things at greater volumes, then it'll probably feel more like a business, if I'm being really honest.
No, fair enough. Look, there's an element or a point of this that, you might get there and just, you've got to appreciate and take a step back and think, do you know what? Like, I'm proud, look where look what I've done and look where I'm going to go, and trying to take that on board, and just, I suppose, give that credit to yourself where it's due. But no, mate, you should be proud for yourself, in this instance of what you've done and where you're going. So I've loved hearing everything that you've said. I think you've got some really good pointers here, and I'm hoping that, you know, for those out there that are interested in doing this or are in the way of doing it, then they can have a chat with you, network with you, ask each other some questions, you know, and go from there. But ultimately, look, you know, if there's anything else you'd like to add, I'm sure you're busy enough, as you said before, I'll leave you to it.
No, that's fine, mate. I mean, look, I'm always a, big networker myself, and would try to help anyone. I think if there's a message that I can leave you with, it's, if you're thinking about doing it, just do it. What's the worst that can happen? You know, and I think that's a mindset thing, right? You know, as I said, I've been fortunate enough to go and live in Dubai and in New York, and I had the same kind of mindset then. Well, let's go, and if it doesn't work out for whatever reason, then, you know, you come home, right? Sure. So it's
exactly.
I think, if people are thinking about it, that itch is probably never going to go away. So I'd just do it.
Fine. And if there's any questions that you've got, you know, for those listening in about, you know, Kyle hiring for his business, you're interested in what he does, you specialize in his particular market, feel free to reach out to him directly. I'll make sure that I get some links on the podcast, you know, channels of who you are and where you are, so they can talk to you. And you know, it's been a pleasure. I really appreciate your time, and I'm sure we'll speak to each other soon.
Yeah. Cheers, Elliot. Thanks for having me.
No, pleasure. Likewise. Thank you.
Cheers.